sataś tāvad bhāvasya nirodho nopapadyate ekatve nahi bhāvasya nābhāvaś copapadyate.
Sataś tāvad bhāvasya nirodho nopapadyate ekatve nahi bhāvasya nābhāvaś copapadyate. MMK chapter 7 verse 30. Death is impossible in the first place for a really existing being. For in oneness, neither existence nor non-existence is possible. Again, so I've translated this verse in the first instance pretty much so that I like how it sounds. And if you don't like it, lump it. I'm in that kind of mood today, and kind of irritated by the gross stupidity of people, beginning with my own Zen teacher Nishijima Sensei. I haven't got the translation that he did that was rewritten. It was translated pathetically and rewritten even more stupidly by Brad Warner. I bought that book, and for some reason I can't find it. Maybe on some subconscious level I've deliberately lost it, but it's probably a blessing that I haven't got it in front of me to have a go at how stupid, how meaningless the translation was. Just one glance at it was enough for me to... See, the thing is, it took me several years in my early 20s just to establish the point that the method of Nishijima Sensei doing a translation and getting one of his Eijos to rewrite it in your exact English sentences, the native rewrite, as it's called in the Japanese copywriting business, you know, that is not a method for translating ancient Buddhist texts. And it took me years just to establish that bloody principle. But in the end of his life, Nishijima Sensei went right back to it. Stupid man that he was. And then I saw the reviews when it first came out, and people who hadn't got a bloody clue giving their opinion about how good or bad it was, mainly how good. Never mind if it wasn't, you know, perfectly literal translation. It wasn't any kind of translation. It was just a senile old man on his last legs. And so that was the kind of empty cup that Brad Warner was. He was like a compassionate snowflake giving the keys to his car to a drunk man. So the whole thing was an absolute load of nonsense. And I hope you'll forgive me for being pissed off about it. As the facts emerge, I think people might become more sympathetic. It's like I made a lot of effort that was not only not appreciated, but was kind of in vain in a sense. I made a lot of effort to establish a principle that was then ignored. So ekatve. Ekatve means one in oneness. Ekatve is locative of ekatva. How difficult is that for people to understand? Eka means one and tvam means ness. So ekatve means in oneness. So oneness means, like F.M. Alexander said, we should go back to living a simple life, believing in the unity underlying all things. Now, you can contrast that unity with translating sarva dharme, all dharmas, as all things and phenomena. That's not unity. That's seeing the physical and the mental, the material and the idealistic. That's no fucking use to anybody. If you think you're helping people by translating all dharmas as all things and phenomena, thinking how clever you are for this kind of balance of the material and the idealistic. Bullshit. Sarvadhamma means all happenings. Ekatve means in oneness. So David Kalapahana, what did he say about it? He says, I want to get irritated by stupid people. I only have to look at people who translated this before. Ekatve in the context of identity. No, not identity. Identity is ekartam, like in the dedicatory verses, anekartam, ananartam. The Buddha's teaching is beyond identity and beyond difference, because identity is saying that two things are one. That's not it. This is talking about oneness. Oneness is not two things wanker. How can it be in identity? Identity is saying two things are one. This is saying ekatve, in oneness. In oneness means where emptiness prevails, before prapancha, before bright sparks like David Kalpahana and Gudo Nishijima started splitting reality into two things. And if we're talking about splitting reality into two things, that's exactly what this is. Pulling the chin in to keep the neck bone straight. It's turning me as the doer and right posture into the done. Whereas a non-coming into being of samskaras, samskaranam asambhavaha, of which Nāgārjuna spoke, there is no such doing and doer. The whole point is that there is no doing and no doer. That's what ekatve means, in oneness. It means exploring the self, which turns into forgetting the self, which turns into body and mind dropping off. Keeping the neck bone straight to balance your autonomic nervous system, where you've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is spiritual, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is physical. And so you have a balance between those two things, is totally not it. It's totally the wrong teaching. Ekatve means in oneness. It's so simple, but because you don't fucking understand it, you come up with crap translations. What did J. Garfield say? A single thing being an entity and a non-entity is not tenable. A single thing being an entity and a non-entity is not tenable. So a single thing in Sanskrit is nominative. It will be nominative. It will be ekaha, ekabhavaha, a single thing. Ekabhavaha. What this says is ekatve, in oneness. So he's totally missed the point. Well, that's not surprising because he's not reading the Sanskrit. He's playing Chinese whisper from the Tibetan. But then here comes Siddharith and Katsura with their prize-winning translation. For one thing cannot be both existent and non-existent. Okay, so they're falling back on what they know, the ontological argument. One thing cannot be both existent and non-existent. Well, that might be true for ontology's sake. But what about what the Sanskrit says, ekatve? It seems like they've actually been looking at J. Garfield's English more than they've been reading the Sanskrit. Ekatve doesn't mean one thing. It means in oneness. So it's not a problem with the Sanskrit text. The Sanskrit text says ekatve nahi. Do you start to get a sense of why I'm frustrated? How come this rubbish won a prize and my videos don't get no views, you know? Dear, oh dear. In oneness, ekatve, nahi bhāvas, nahi bhavaha. So nahi bhavaha could mean several things. Bhava means existence, existent thing as non-empty concepts, but it also means a living being as an empty happening. So in the first pada, so if I do the second line first, for in oneness, for he in oneness ekatve, neither na existence, bhāvaś, cha and, na not, abhāvaha non-existence, copapadyate. So cha and upapadyate is possible. For in oneness, neither existence nor non-existence is possible. So there I've translated bhava and abhava as existence or non-existence. It could all equally be translated neither thing nor absence is possible. Bhavaha thing and abhavaha absence. So ekatve in oneness, na not, he for, bhavaha existence or thing, cha and, na not, abhavaha non-existence or absence, cha and upapadyate is possible. Ekatve nahi bhāvasya, nābhāvaś copapadyate. For in oneness, neither existence nor non-existence is possible. Or, for in oneness, neither thing nor absence is possible. In oneness, you can't have a duality of existence, non-existence, thing, absence, subject, object, body, mind. Any kind of duality is impossible in oneness. So this is not talking about identity, ekartam. It's talking about oneness. Like Master Dogen said, the secret of Zazen is jijyo ipen, naturally become one piece. I read a Dharma air of Mike Latchford, who's head of the Glasgow Zen Centre, writing he was kissing Isho Fujita's ass because he doesn't know any better and saying, oh, Isho Fujita, what he wrote about posture is so fantastic. I've got nothing to add about posture, but I'd like to add my 2 penny worth about breathing. So then he wrote his commentary about doing this, doing that, and do the other about breathing. Again, it just pisses me off because it's like I made so much effort to clarify what was wrong in Nishijima Sensei's teaching about posture. It's like nobody's paid any attention whatsoever bloody ever. How do you know, you idiot, how to breathe? What makes you think that you know how to breathe? What have you got? What have you got to say useful about breathing? Master Dogen didn't write about how to breathe, but you think you know you've got 1 or 2 little bits of insight in how to breathe. It's the blind leading the bloody blind. It's human arrogance to think I know how to breathe. I haven't got a fucking clue how to breathe. If I knew how to breathe, there would be 2 of me. There will be the smart arse who knows how to breathe, and there will be the dumb fuck who needs to be told how to breathe. Ekatve, in oneness. There isn't such bullshit teaching. Ekatve, there's the teaching of just sit. Just sit. Allowing utpadas titibanga. Just sit, just go up. Stay still. That is cessation. It's cessation of stupid fucking ideas about how to breathe. Ekatve nahi bhāvasya, nābhāvaś copapadyate. For in oneness, neither this or that is possible, neither existence nor non-existence, neither thing nor absence. ekatve, in oneness. It's not difficult. People should study the Sanskrit and they see for themselves. Ekatve means in oneness. How do people just fail to see that? Kalpahana. In the context of identity. No, not identity. Identity is ekatam. The whole point is the teaching is beyond identity. And then Garfield missed the point totally, and Sideris and Katsura seem like they followed Garfield. The blind leading the blind. First line is sataś tāvad bhāvasya nirodho nopapadyate. So this follows the same form as verse 27, except for where in that verse we had stitasya bhāvasya, a being staying still. Here we've got sataś bhāvasya, so a being, bhāvasya, for a being, sataś. Sataha means existent or real and present, like we had in the first chapter. I translated sat as real and present. So again, it could be either. It could be a non-empty concept of an existent thing, and sata and bhāvasya are genitive, so it could be of an existent thing. That would be the non-empty conception if you wanted to have an ontological discussion. And that's for damn sure that J. Garfield and Sideris and Katsura would like to have an ontological discussion. They'd love it if this verse didn't go beyond the ontological. Then they could get their intellectual heads around it. Okay, so that's why I deliberately haven't translated it like that. Although it does also mean that. You could translate it quite literally. The cessation of an existent thing is, in the first place, impossible. So the cessation, nirodha, with sandhi nirodho, of an existent thing, sataha bhāvasya, genitive, is, in the first place, tāvad, which is how I translated it in verse 27. And this first line of this verse and the first line of next verse mirror the first and second line of verse 27, if you refer back. Impossible, nopapadyate. So, again, the cessation of an existent thing is in the first place impossible. The cessation, nirodho, of an existent thing, sataha bhāvasya, in the first place, tāvad, is impossible, nopapadyate. Or, for a translation that has more practical impact, death is impossible, nirodho nopapadyate, in the first place, tāvad, for a really existing being, sataha bhāvasya, for a really existing sataha being, living being, in other words. Death is impossible for a really existing being. In other words, for a living being as a happening, death is impossible. So Master Dogen said, Shoji no naka ni hotoke areba shoji nashi. If in life and death, if in living and dying there is Buddha, there is no life and death. I translated that 25 years ago, hadn't begun to see the meaning of it. Really, exactly. You know, I understood it to mean if you practice Zazen, there's something eternal, but I didn't understand what it really meant. What it really means, of course, is connected with emptiness. If there is Buddha in life and death, it means if there's dropping off body and mind as a happening, that's all it means. Because a happening is not subject to beginning and ending. It's not subject to life and death. If you devote yourself to a happening, if Zazen is a devotion to a happening, it's beyond life and death. A happening is, inevitably, a happening is oneness. In a happening, there is no me who knows about breathing and me the breather. That's not in oneness, that's in two-ness. So, in some sense, if you're practicing Zazen like that, you are not a really existing being yet. You become a really existing being when you stop turning empty happenings into subject and object, body and mind, things and phenomena, existence and non-existence. That's what Alexander work's all about. That's why Alexander called what he called the primary control, and correct employment of the primary control. The criteria for it is using yourself as a whole. It somewhat pisses me off that people think Issho Fujita is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'd sacrifice so bloody much to train for 3 years as an Alexander technique teacher. People should listen to what I'm saying, not Issho Fujita. What is it? Issho Fujita is a body worker from the same stable as me. He doesn't know what the Alexander teaching is in terms of the most mental thing there is. He's still in the bodywork camp. At least that's how he was last time I looked into him. The most mental thing there is means prapanch upashama. Stop turning what's empty into what's not empty, just like Nishijima Sensei spent his whole life doing. And at the end of his life, what did he want to do? Establish his fucking legacy. Fuck a legacy. A legacy is a stone, a thing like a stone. Shove it up your arse. The Dharma is a happening. It's an empty happening. Satascha tāvad bhāvasya nirodho nopapadyate. Death is impossible. Nirodho nopapadyate. In the first place, tāvad, for a really existing being. Sataś bhāvasya. Okay, and then in the second place, we'll have the first line of verse 31, which I hope I'll be in a better mood when I go through tomorrow. If we have the ontological translation again, the cessation of an existent thing, nirodho sataś bhāvasya. So sataha bhāvasya. Sataha becomes sataś before cha. So the cha is and, but I think it goes with api in the first line of verse 31. So that's why I haven't translated cha in this translation. But when we say in the first line of 21, again, then I'm taking cha and api together. So the cessation of an existent thing and the cessation of an existent thing, satascha bhāvasya, in the first place, tāvad, translated as in verse 27, is impossible, nopapadyate. So the ontological translation, the cessation of an existent thing is in the first place impossible. For in oneness, neither thing nor absence is possible. Still the same translation of ekatve. For in oneness, neither thing nor absence is possible. Or a translation which has more practical import, death is impossible in the first place for a really existing being. For in oneness, neither existence nor non-existence is possible. So then the question, what did Nāgārjuna intend by this ambiguity? A verse that could be read, I think he deliberately composed it so that it could be read at two levels. Again, the level of ontology is to do with the nature of being. It's about what exists and what doesn't exist. So in that case, it's looking at the two things which the Buddha said were the two views to abandon. Ucheda drishti, or shashvata drishti, and ucheda drishti. Shashvata drishti is the view of existence, the existness. Ucheda drishti means the view of it does not existness. Okay, so those are the two views that these guys seem to understand the Buddha negated. Okay, but who cares about that? The Buddha negated them. And in the middle, by the middle, he taught pratitya samutpada, which is prapanchopashama, which is Shiva. He taught the happiness, which is the cessation of prapancha, which is going up by going back. But people aren't really interested in the teaching of the middle way. They're interested in getting their PhD theses, getting their PhDs by writing theses on ontology. That's why you've got those rubbish translations that you've got. Again, what does J. Garfield say? For an existent thing, cessation is not tenable. A single thing, being an entity and a non-entity, is not tenable. Okay? That's ontology. He's talking about ontology means a single thing being an entity and a non-entity is not tenable. And again, Siddharisa and Katsura. One thing cannot be both existent and non-existent. Quite remarkable, really, that those guys won a prize for translating a translation like that. Ekatve means in oneness. You couldn't have a more important word, in oneness. But they translated it one thing, like it was a locative absolute. There being one thing. There being one thing. But no, but it couldn't be. It could be there being oneness if it's locative. Absolute. There being oneness. Where there is oneness, you could translate it. You can't translate it as one thing. Ekatve. You see, people are so stupid. So stupid that they don't even bother to look at what the Sanskrit word says. It's like they're so keen to show what they see. They don't bother to look. Just look at the word. Everybody could look at the fucking word that I've written in the description below. Eka means one. Tvam means ness. So ekatvam means oneness. Look it up in the Sanskrit dictionary. Ekatvam means oneness. Then if you go in the Sanskrit Heritage Dictionary and look how to conjugate tvam, ekatve is a locative of ekatvam. So it means in oneness. It's, just look at it. You don't have to see anything. You don't have to make any effort. It's so bloody obvious. Ekatve means in oneness. So how the hell do you write in the context of identity? It doesn't mean identity. Identity is what you've got when you've got two things or more made one. That's totally different from identity. But even that's better than what J. Garfield says. A single thing that would be nominative and a totally different word, ekatve. And again, one thing. They just follow Garfield. They haven't even bothered to look at the Sanskrit. That's what I'm objecting to. Not that they failed to see something. They just didn't look. So, the question, if I set my rant aside, why did Nāgārjuna phrase it so even if people do bother to look at the bloody text itself, instead of jumping to their stupid ontological conclusions, if you explore it and study it, it's not clear what he intended. Did he want to say the cessation of an existent thing is in the first place impossible? That's more ontological statement. The cessation of an existent thing is impossible. Because if a thing exists, according to Shashvata Drishti, according to the eternity view, it can't cease existing. That's the ontological assertion, which is true. Or, as I think what you're really saying is, if you're really existing, if you are really looking at the words, if you are not impressed by stupid people's arguments, but actually recognize that you have physicality in space, that you're a really existing being. If you've become a really existing being by practicing Zazen, for example, then death is impossible because you're just a fucking happening man. The Buddhas can't touch you because you're a happening. That the death of a happening is not possible. That's the possibility that Zazen practice offers people. Go beyond life and death by happening as a happening. I think that's what my bias is, that Nāgārjuna wants us to realize that meaning. Death is impossible. And he's phrased it so the ontological meaning is like a big elephant trap for big fat ontologists to fall into. That's how I understand it. But another way of understanding it is, rather than kind of getting aggressive about it, like I've been doing in this exploration, using the word exploration quite broadly, but what a better word, a truer word, would probably in this tirade. The alternative might be a more detached approach and say, F. Scott Fitzgerald. See, I wrote this note last night, and that's why it's a little bit more a little bit less aggressive, a more ruminative. I looked at what F. Scott Fitzgerald said because I'd read on one of my FinTwit follows, talking about the possibility of inflation and deflation. I think he was talking about. So they quoted F. Scott Fitzgerald. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. So that's one way of understanding it, that it's a kind of mental gymnastics. Can you retain the latitude to see two possible readings of one verse without thinking it's this one is the true one? maybe that is what Nāgārjuna intended. Well, if so, I've missed the point, because to me, what he's saying is something like this. Listen, you stupid motherfucker. Death is impossible for a really existing being. For in oneness, existence, neither existence nor non-existence is possible. In oneness. Sataś tāvad bhāvasya nirodho nopapadyate ekatve bhāvasya nābhāvaś copapadyate. Death is impossible in the first place for a really existing being. For in oneness, neither existence nor non-existence is possible. See, I really don't give a flying fuck whether people think I'm a good guy or a bad guy, or think whatever the fuck you like. But just look at the fucking words and do the work yourself. Don't rely on this kind of crap, and don't rely on me. The more useful people, an academic whose work I do revere, Anne MacDonald or Xiaoyong Ye, because those guys have got reverence for the original text. Okay, so they've made efforts to establish what the original text was, which is really valuable and useful. And so you lazy bastard, look at the words, study Sanskrit, and make your own mind up what Nāgārjuna was really saying. I don't blame you for. I don't want people. I don't want people to revere me. In fact, if you fuck off and leave me alone, I'll be delighted. But it pisses me off that nobody's watching the videos because you're all so fucking stupid and lazy that you can't be bothered to do the work, to do the kind of work that studying for yourself requires. You'd rather see some bullshit post on Facebook about compassion and kindness, and hit your little like button on that and feel good about yourself. Do the fucking work. Sataś, genitive singular of sat, to be, being, existing. Cha, and. Tāvad, you decide what it means. In the first place, right now. For a start. Bhāvasya, genitive singular, of, you decide. A being, existence, an existent being, a living being. Nirodho, cessation, death, destruction, stopping. Nopapadyate, I say it means not possible. Other people think it means not tenable or not appropriate. Make your own mind up. Ekatve means in oneness. There's no two ways about it. Ekatve means in oneness. Check out what Alexander said about unity underlying all things. Find out for yourself. Certainly don't take Issho Fujita's word for it, because he's just dabbled in the Alexander technique as far as I know. He didn't get down on his drive down to London on his motorbike once every couple of weeks over a number of years to go and visit Alexander's niece Marjorie Barlow. Na, not, he, for. Bhavaha, existence, thing, existing thing, living thing. Cha, and, na, not, abhava, non-existence, absence, or abhava could be a non-living being. So a living being, but not what you think as a living being. Again, all these things to be explored. Cha and copapadyate is possible. Sataś tāvad bhāvasya nirodho nopapadyate ekatve nahi bhāvasya nābhāvaś copapadyate.
सतश्च तावद् भावस्य निरोधो नोपपद्यते एकत्वे नहि भावस्य नाभावश्चोपपद्यते।